Hi there. Today we're talking about proportions. A proportion is two equal ratios. Okay, so two equal ratios is like two equal fractions. Okay, and they help us solve problems. So in a proportion problem, three of the four parts will be known to you, and one will not. And that's the one you can find. Okay, so it probably makes more sense if we just solve one. West went to a bait shop to buy worms. He paid $2 for every 7 plastic worms, and he spent a total of $10 on tackle. Tackle is what you fish with. What proportion can be used to find the amount of worms that West bought? Okay, so we're going to set up the proportion, and we're going to be sure to label all of these things. All right, so we know that he spent $2 for 7 worms. Okay, so $2, that's dollars, for 7 worms. Those are worms. And he spent a total of $10. So the $10 has to go next to the other $10 because those need to match the other dollar set. Okay, so dollars next to dollars and worms next to worms. So if we know these three numbers, how do we solve for this one? Okay, so we decide that to get from 2 to 5, we can multiply by 5, which means we have to do it to the bottom as well. So 7 times 5 is 35. So he could buy 35 worms for $10. All right. So what if we decided to set it up a different way? What if we decided to put 7 worms and $2? And then the $10 goes here. Could we solve it that way? Well, of course we could. We could solve it the exact same way we just did, like here. It's times 5 times 5. So it really doesn't matter which of those two parts of the ratio go on the top or bottom. Okay, we could also put all the money on one side and all the worms on the other. So if we have $2 and $10, which are our $2 amounts, and the $2 matches the 7 worms, we could solve for here. Okay, so we could go over by 2.5, or we can go up and down times 5. We're still going to get the same answer. And then we can flip it again. So proportions really are not picky, except the fact that you have to get the things that match next to each other. So you got to have the dollar amounts next to each other, and you got to have the 2 and the 7 by each other. Okay? All right. So sometimes the proportion is not easily solved. You have a couple choices. Okay? So let's do this, and I'll explain as we go. Every day, an aquarium worker feeds 4 sharks a total of 48 pounds of food. At this rate, how many pounds of food would the aquarium worker need every day to feed 9 sharks? So we do have 3 knowns and 1 unknown. Okay, so what do we know? We know that there are 4 sharks that eat 48 pounds of food. And we know there's 9 sharks here. Okay, so what we really need to do, we can go up and down, which we'll do here, or we can simplify. So let's do it here. Simplify and then solve. I think those are the words that really should have been there. Simplify, then solve. So see how 4 and 48 can be simplified to 1 over 12? And now it's easier to do times 9. Okay, 108. So 108 pounds of food. Now, the other way, which is what I was going for earlier, 4 sharks, 48 pounds of food, and 9 sharks. Okay, instead of going side to side the whole time, we can go like this. As long as these arrows point towards the unknown, we can do that. So 4 times 12 is 48, and 9 times 12 is 108. Okay, so you can simplify and solve it, or you can look for an up and down relationship. If you have questions, ask your teacher.